In the quiet river town of Atchison, Kansas, an ordinary Victorian home stands among rows of aging houses. Yet for decades, visitors have claimed that something unseen lingers within its walls, watching silently from the darkness. In 1993, Tony and Debra Pickman moved into the house, hoping to begin a new chapter in their lives. At the time, neither had heard the strangest stories that would later make the property infamous. The first few days passed peacefully. Furniture was arranged, rooms were decorated, and life settled into a routine. Nothing seemed unusual, and any future talk of hauntings would have sounded completely absurd. One night, long after everyone had gone to bed, Tony heard footsteps moving across the upstairs floor. Assuming it was the house settling, he ignored the noise and eventually fell back asleep. The sounds returned the following night, then again the night after that. Before long, the unexplained footsteps became a regular occurrence, always arriving after midnight when the house should have been silent. Tony began noticing something difficult to explain. Whenever he entered certain rooms, he felt as though someone was standing nearby. The sensation was subtle at first, but impossible to completely dismiss. One room seemed different from the others. A small nursery near the back of the house carried an unusual atmosphere. Visitors often described feeling uneasy there without understanding exactly why. Late one evening, Tony reported seeing what appeared to be a small girl standing at the far end of the hallway. Before he could react, the figure vanished completely into the darkness. Tony immediately searched the hallway and nearby rooms, expecting to find a rational explanation. He found nothing. No open doors, no hiding places, only the same unsettling silence that now filled the house. Despite the strange encounter, Tony remained skeptical. Lack of sleep seemed more likely than ghosts, yet the memory of the figure lingered long after the experience itself had passed. The disturbances soon became harder to ignore. Small household items reportedly began appearing in unexpected locations. Keys, utensils, and personal belongings seemed to move on their own, often reappearing where no one remembered leaving them. According to later accounts, the kitchen became one of the most active areas in the house. Cabinets occasionally appeared open without explanation, and objects were reportedly found moved shortly after being carefully put away. Soon afterward, electrical problems reportedly began occurring throughout the house. Lights flickered unexpectedly, appliances activated without warning, and certain disturbances appeared to happen most often when Tony was alone. Weeks of interrupted sleep gradually wore down the household. What had once seemed merely unusual now felt increasingly oppressive. Fatigue amplified every strange sound, making even ordinary nights feel uncomfortable and unpredictable. Friends visiting the home reportedly experienced unusual events of their own. Some claimed to hear unexplained noises, while others described an uncomfortable sensation of being watched despite finding no obvious cause. Conversations repeatedly returned to the nursery. Visitors unfamiliar with the home's reputation often identified the room as unsettling without being prompted, a detail that strengthened the belief that something unusual centered there. Tony later claimed the feeling of being watched became almost constant. Certain rooms felt occupied even when empty, creating an atmosphere that he found increasingly difficult to dismiss as imagination. Then came one of the most controversial claims associated with the Sallie House. Tony reportedly discovered fresh scratches on his body after experiencing a sudden burning sensation, despite having no memory of injuring himself. According to witness accounts, the scratches did not remain an isolated incident. Similar marks allegedly appeared again, increasing concerns that the disturbances were becoming more aggressive than the unexplained noises reported earlier. By this stage, skepticism had largely given way to concern. Whatever explanation Tony preferred, he could no longer deny that something inside the house was affecting him emotionally, physically, or perhaps both at once. As reports surrounding the house spread, paranormal investigators began contacting the Pickmans. What had started as a private ordeal was becoming increasingly public, attracting researchers eager to determine whether the disturbances could be documented objectively. Audio recorders, cameras, and environmental sensors were placed throughout the house. Investigators hoped technology might reveal something witnesses had missed, or perhaps provide evidence supporting a more conventional explanation for the claims. As darkness settled over the property, the atmosphere reportedly changed. Witnesses described a growing tension inside the house, as though everyone present was silently waiting for something they could neither identify nor explain. During later reviews of recorded material, investigators claimed certain sounds could not be immediately identified. Some believed they captured faint voices. Others argued the recordings reflected ordinary background noise interpreted through expectation. Over time, stories began circulating about a young girl allegedly connected to the property. According to paranormal accounts, the child was called Sallie, though historical evidence supporting the identity remains disputed today. Investigators agree the reported activity came from a child. Some suggested the apparent innocence of the sightings concealed something far more unsettling, a possibility that would dramatically alter interpretations of the haunting. Several witnesses later described moments when activity appeared unusually intense. Strange sounds, sudden sensations, and unexplained events seemed to occur within a short period, reinforcing beliefs that the house was becoming increasingly unpredictable. Skeptics argued that stress, fatigue, expectation, and media attention may have influenced witness perceptions. In their view, ordinary experiences gradually acquired supernatural meaning through repetition, discussion, and growing public fascination. Although the Pickmans eventually moved on, reports connected to the property continued. Visitors, investigators, and curious observers would return for years, each bringing their own expectations and leaving with their own conclusions. Perhaps the Sallie House represents a powerful example of fear shaping perception. Or perhaps something unexplained truly occurred within those walls. Decades later, certainty remains elusive. Whatever happened there continues to invite both belief and doubt.